people who are dyeing their hair, how do you know you don't like your gray hair unless you try it? And
Love that. Love that.
yeah, it's poignant and it's worth considering.
But I appreciate that you encourage what is right for you and that this is a space to consider that there are options. You're not just stuck with one thing.
Looking back on it, it's so funny because I was so nervous. I sat him down when we were on a date and I just said, "What do you think about people with gray hair?" Like, I was like, "Well, by the way, I have gray hair and I'm gonna stop dyeing it."
Hmm.
And so he was just like,
Hello, beautiful butterfly, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, I'm Nina. I'm back with another Silver Sister interview, and I'm going to let her introduce herself to you guys now.
"Hey guys, I am Martha. I run the GROMBRE account, and I am so excited to connect with Nina. I have heard about her and just seen her on Instagram for a long time, and she's someone that, when I think of her, is just very, very uplifting and encouraging. And so she definitely encourages me. So I am very, very humbled and flattered that she asked me to do this interview. So thank you, Nina, for having me.
Oh, what an introduction. I am honored to be able to interview you because you're the one who made this beautiful platform, Grombre, which I'd love for you to tell us about. That is a great resource for Silver Sisters. Even if you're on the fence and you haven't started your gray hair journey yet, it's a great inspirational place to see so many women's stories. So let us know how you came up with that or how you started that.
Yeah, it really started from a personal place. Yeah, I was 24 years old and had been dyeing my hair all throughout high school, all throughout college, and of course went through like kind of the fun phase of dyeing my hair all different colors and really enjoying that expressive side. But quickly, later in college, started to feel like it wasn't a fun choice anymore. It was something that I felt like I had to do because, at my roots, I was showing silver, and
Mhm.
that's something that you just don't do. And so, really developed some conflicting feelings about that, and then really about myself too. And I started to feel very ashamed and very like a washed up version of myself. And I knew that that wasn't true. And so, so I was 24 and decided to just stop dyeing my hair, which was crazy and it was scary. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I needed to address this, how I was placing value and how I was seeing myself. And I needed to do that kind of head on. And so that was in 2016.
Mhm.
I needed resources and encouragement in community because from day to day, I was feeling all different kinds of things.
Mhm.
One day I could have felt very encouraged and like, yes, I'm doing it. And then the next day, I just feel completely like, lost and just run the gamut of emotions.
Mhm.
And so I created a little Instagram account called Grombre, and I remember over time it got just like a couple word of mouth followers, and friends would tell friends about it, and I just was so amazed that there were other women out there that felt the same way that I was feeling, because I felt so isolated and
Mhm.
so alone. It wasn't a conversation openly being had, at least in my own community. And so it just kind of grew from there to what it is now. And essentially, what, the main purpose of it is to celebrate women who are embracing their naturally graying hair. And, my intention is to show women all around the world, all walks of life. I want anybody to be able to look at that page and see someone on there and says, she kind of looks like me, or there's something about her journey or her story that really resonates with me.
Right.
Part of that is sharing stories.
Mhm.
It's not just photographs. I want to hear from women who are feeling, empowered or vulnerable, whatever it is on that given day,
Mm-hmm.
and hear about their life stories, and just think from that bigger life perspective.
Yeah.
And it's just been so encouraging to be a part of it, and I'm really humbled to be a part of it. I didn't invent gray hair, so just the fact that it has grown the way that it has to really encourage so many people around the world is just truly humbling. So
It is.
Grombre is mainly an Instagram account, but yeah.
What made you come up with the name Grombre?
Yeah, so that's a question I get a lot. And I was trying to think of like a word to describe the process of actually growing out your hair.
Right.
There wasn't really a word to describe it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I was looking at my own hair. I had like really, really dark black dyed hair and then these
Mm-hmm.
white roots. And
Mm-hmm.
so, there's a hairstyle called ombre where
Yeah.
essentially from the roots to the tips, it's two different colors. And so
Right.
I was like, well, that's kind of like growing out your gray. It's
Mm-hmm.
your gray roots here and then the old dye here. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
a grombre. And that's,
That's
that's
so
how that
cool.
happened.
And call some of you like grown babes, which I love, on your page. And it's some of the stories that I've read on your page have been just like, wow, people who have gone through health crisis, and that's what tipped it off, and then how they've overcome. So I just really thank you for what you might have thought was just a little Instagram account, but has become, like you said, a resource, encouragement, and community for women who are going through this. There are so many who are gray already and who are like, I wish I had that. And what's nice is all of those can be a resource for those who are just coming in now, because there's still so many. And even with this situation we're in now, a lot of people are going to be finding their roots. So thank you so much for giving us the background on how you got started on Instagram and your Grombre journey. So now we're going to get into the questions so that we could get to know more about you and you could give your tips and advice. So when did you first notice your gray hairs starting to come in?
Okay, that's a good one. I found my first gray hair when I was 14. It was like
Mm.
tucked away back here, and I didn't even see it first. I think it was like my mom that saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's really interesting. Growing up, even at a younger age, people kind of always thought I was older than I was. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually have a big sister. She's 5 years older than me.
Okay.
And so when we would like go to a restaurant, I would be a teenager and they would hand me the wine list and they would hand
Wow.
her the soda list. And so I already had this kind of interesting relationship
Mm-hmm.
with age and what I thought about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so you then throw in this thing called gray hair that like is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be older and make you old.
Right.
I quickly developed, without realizing it, just this unhealthy relationship with how I view myself and my body, and
Mm-hmm.
you know age in general. And
Right.
so yeah, I died in high school and throughout college,
Mm-hmm.
until I kind of decided to readdress it.
Right. Okay. So did someone inspire your gray hair transition?
My mom has the most beautiful silver hair. Both my parents do, but my
Mm-hmm.
mom in particular.
Right.
And she actually, she's never dyed her hair, and I paused because she has once. So
Okay.
she gray hair for her was like such a non-event that she doesn't even remember her first time like getting a gray hair. But
Right.
when she
Right.
was in her 30s, she had a good friend who was a hairstylist that basically
Mm-hmm.
said, how do you know that you don't like dye if you've never tried it? And she was like,
Mm,
okay, fair question.
got
She
it.
did it once, and then she was like, not for me
Okay.
personally. Didn't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I find so interesting about that question is that it can be applied the other way too, which is people who are dyeing their hair. How do you know you don't like your gray hair unless you try it? And
Love that. Love that.
yeah, it's poignant and it's worth considering.
I
But
like
my
that.
mom,
That's a good one to help different ones, because the beauty is if you try it and you don't like it, you could always dye your hair again or go back. There, I think a lot of people when they get stuck on even deciding it, they feel like permanent decision, and it's not. You know, there are plenty of people who have tried it, said that didn't work for them, and then went back. So I like that, the way you pose that question.
And that's okay if you're in that position,
Right.
feeling that, that is totally okay. Like,
Yeah.
give yourself some grace and just
Yes.
take a deep breath and know that you just need to do what's right for you. And
Yeah.
part of that's figuring it out.
And I love how even with your page, and I've tried to say this too, we talked a little bit before about how you can't please everybody. Because when I, put this out there for the support of those on their gray hair transition, I didn't want those who were coloring their hair to feel like I was attacking them or judging them. It was just for those who need that push, who really are done with the dye. That's who we're here for, not to say that those who decide differently are wrong. You do, like you said, what's right for you.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I think something that I see happening in all humanity, but specifically women, that
Mhm.
I want to change, and I think we are,
Mhm.
even having this conversation, is so many times we kind of just like put ourselves against each other. It's the working mom versus the stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
It's the single people who, want to live their
Right.
life versus people who want to settle down and get married. And I
Right.
think that same kind of thinking automatically gets instilled into this conversation, very understandably so. But
Mhm.
truly, the same with the Grombre page. It's not about convincing anyone to,
Right.
this is better, this is right. It's like,
Mhm.
no, back up. This is really just to encourage the space to consider it,
Mhm.
because when I was figuring this out, there wasn't that space. And
Right.
whatever you decide, that is so personal and for you, and that is
Mhm.
okay.
Right. And you're coming up with such great um ways to look at it, compassionate ways, because another thing, basically like you said, there's so many things people try and be divisive about, even in the gray hair community.
Mhm.
How do you decide to go gray? But that's a whole nother topic. But I appreciate that you encourage what is right for you, and that this is a space to consider that there are options. You're not just stuck with one thing.
Mhm.
But I definitely would like to open that conversation to be more supportive and compassionate as opposed to divisive,
Mhm.
because everyone is unique and what works for them can also change. You could have somebody, I've seen people who started their gray hair journey and then maybe something else really tough is going on in their life and they're like, I can't do both. So
Right?
they go back to dying. And you see some people kind of push them away, and it's like, we should be supportive in general, but yeah.
Exactly.
So did you go to a hairdresser to help with the transition, or did you go cold turkey? How did you decide to grow?
I went cold turkey. I didn't have a whole lot of resources, and
Mhm.
so I was just like, well, first of all, I didn't have a whole lot of resources.
Mhm.
Second of all, I also just kind of understood, that I didn't understand what it was, but I understood that there could be some value in me learning, um, how to be really vulnerable for a little while, and that's
Mm.
truly what it was.
Mm.
And so, I didn't get any help from a stylist. Granted, I will say, like, it's worth acknowledging. Like, if you were
Mhm.
to look at me from afar, I've got dark hair,
Right.
and so while it's there, I didn't deal with such a stark contrast.
Right.
And I think for some women, that does bring up some, just like emotional road bumps, and
Mhm.
that's okay. So had it been like 10, 15, 20 years down the road where my hair was a little bit more gray, I don't know what I
Mhm.
would have decided.
Right.
So I don't at all mean to downplay. I, I don't
Right.
think there's one way to go,
Yes.
one right way to go gray. I think it
Yes.
is really very much individual. But
Mhm.
I just went cold turkey.
Cool, cool. You said it just right. There's no one right way, whatever works for you. And because each of our hair is individual, even our gray hair pattern is unique. When your gray hair did come in, was it what you expected it would be? Like the
Mhm.
pattern that it came in?
I don't think I knew what to expect.
Mm,
Um, I guess what I expected was for it to be like pretty. much across the board, like all
Mhm.
around, just sprinkled around there. And
Mhm.
overall, that's what it is. But I will say on this side of my part, it's a lot more silver than it is on this
Right.
side. And
Right.
so I actually love that. My part used to be over here. And then when I realized that I'm more silver, I'm like, ooh, this is fun. So I
Isn't it
flipped
something? You even switch up on your style a little bit. I so can relate to that with your mom. Are you both of your hair gray patterns different?
Ours are different.
Okay.
Yeah. She, I think, started kind of really graying at her temples.
Mhm.
Um, it's really funny. I have like on the back of my head
Mhm.
this very, very white stripe just kind of randomly on
Mm.
the back of my head, which
Mhm.
I don't get to see because it's the back of my head.
Right.
But when I do, it's just this kind of like fun surprise and reminder. But yeah, I've got that, and then I've got it kind of mainly on this side. So we're a little bit different.
Yeah, and even for me, I thought that I would have wanted salt and pepper, but of
Mm.
course mine came in hairline strong, and it was white. But now I wish all my hair was white. That's the irony. So
So funny.
that's another thing, people, going back to what you said about how you don't know what you won't like or will like unless you try it. Did you receive support when you decided that you wanted to go gray?
I did, and I'm very, very fortunate because
Mhm.
not everyone does.
Yes.
Um, so, the other part that I didn't share earlier
Mhm.
was part of what made me reconsider even dyeing my hair was I had met this amazing guy that I was just falling in love with, and I just
Mhm.
felt like, the world was my oyster, and I could become whoever I wanted to be,
Mhm.
and I just felt so alive with him. But then at the same time, I was really super worried that if he found out I had been dyeing my hair or if he saw my
Mhm.
gray roots, then he wouldn't like me anymore, or just think that I'm not as pretty, or it's
Right.
so silly
All of
saying
that.
all of this out loud, but truly that's really, really how I felt. And so
Mhm.
he is my now husband,
Yay!
and he's such a wonderful person. And looking back on it, it's so funny because I was so nervous. I sat him down when we were on a date and I just said, what do you think about people with gray hair? And I give him credit because he answered very honestly. He said,
Mhm.
I don't know. He's like, I
Mhm.
really don't know. And I was like, okay, that's fair enough. I don't know either.
Right.
like, I was like, well, by the way, I have gray hair and I'm going to stop dyeing it.
Mhm.
And so he was just like, okay. And he was like, well, we'll figure this out together. And so he was very supportive throughout my journey. And I think partly because he watched me blossom in ways that I wouldn't have otherwise. And so, yes, I got a lot of support from him.
Mhm.
Grombre wouldn't be a thing without him.
Oh, this is so cool. And I'm definitely gonna stand out these two interviews because both of you, Tracy and yourself, talked about how your hubbies were so supportive, and I think that that's encouraging for those who are single, who
Mm,
are afraid that that's gonna make them unattractive and maybe not find love, and that's not true.
it's not. It's really not. And if it is true,
Right.
likely
Mhm.
that guy is probably not the right one for
Mhm.
you,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's okay.
Right, right, right.
It's hard because you want to be liked by everyone, but
Yes.
it's okay. And by the way, I'm sure, Nina, you have the same experience, but like ever since I've stopped dyeing my hair, I get stopped by people all the time
Yes.
with compliments. I never got compliments before.
And it's funny because it kind of almost makes you think, that you weren't unattractive before,
Mhm.
but even when you had that transparent moment, you said, I can't believe I'm saying it out loud. You definitely aren't the only one. And
Mhm.
even those who are in a relationship who feel like, okay, my mate came with me in a one way and now I'm going to be different.
Mhm.
They I have heard so many who have supportive husbands who told them, look, I'm hiding the dye, you're not dyeing your hair again, like, who
Wow.
were like their sponsors, you could say, to help them through it. And my husband too was definitely very supportive. That just warms my heart that you had said that he saw you blossom. That is a beautiful kind of love to find, that someone will take you as you are in whatever season you're in, who can work with you and change with you in those different seasons instead of be stuck. Like you said, you wouldn't necessarily want somebody who only is conditional. That's not the love that you're looking for.
Right, because at the end of the day, we want to be known and we want to
Mm-hmm.
be loved and known for who we are, and that also that also includes ourselves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know myself. I don't want to only, like and love myself when I look a certain way. And
Right.
at the end of the day, that's what we long for. And
Mm-hmm.
just to have that support is something I do not take for granted. And to all of the supportive significant others out there, like, bravo.
Good one. Yes, they deserve a nice clap. And you did have a good experience as far as support and going through that, which is nice because the journey itself can play with your head. So to have those who support you and validate you are a nice buffer. And that's another beauty of the Grombre community, the Silver Sisters community. Was there a certain part of the journey that was the hardest for you out of all of it, where more harder than others?
Yeah, the beginning was really hard,
Mm-hmm.
as I hear it is for so many. And I think, a big reason why that is because you're dealing with so many raw emotions
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
then you also feel particularly vulnerable in a way that you're not used to.
Right.
And you're suddenly you're suddenly kind of exposed in a way, to where that people are seeing you a little bit different. At the same time, you're seeing yourself a little bit different. So
Right.
to not have that, like, privacy and guard and safety net is something that is a little bit daunting, and it sure was for me too,
Mhm.
especially being in my 20s and deciding to do it. I had friends that thankfully were very supportive, but
Mhm.
at the same time, they kind of like were supportive with a raised eyebrow. They're kind of like,
Right. Like,
"What?" I mean,
okay.
like, I love you, but okay. And I mean, I kind of felt the same way, and so I
Right.
don't totally blame them. But anyways, yeah, just being susceptible to comments, good or bad,
Right.
other elseness,
Right.
basically,
Right.
when you're
Right.
already dealing with yourself,
Right.
is
Right.
something that is really challenging when you're not used to it.
You said it so well that, and I never heard it described that way, but this is what I mean about when we share our
Mhm.
feelings and how someone says something and I'm like, that's what I've been trying to say.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
you're experiencing something without the privacy of being able to deal with it on your own. So you're dealing with that and then other people's perception. So that goes to show that when we're okay and we do get to a place of contentment and a place of I'm okay with this, outside doesn't bother as much. But when you're at that vulnerable spot, then it's like, oh my gosh, people are kind of mirroring what you're feeling, in a
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes to my next question, which was when you did receive negative feedback, or what kind of negative feedback did you receive and how did you handle it?
Um, yeah. So the okay, it just must be said that if you're going into this and expecting that everyone's going to be on your team, they're not. Just
Mm-hmm.
everyone has an opinion,
Right.
and not all the opinions are going to align with yours. And by the way, not all the opinions matter, like, at all. So just having that understanding and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that it's coming just
Mm-hmm.
kind of enables you to feel a little bit more empowered about, like, your decision and what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
even though you still feel rocky.
Right.
So as far as negative comments, Grombre has been so fortunate to get just different kinds of press, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's just been a huge humbling experience. But it's different when you are, if there's an article out there that's not kind of the safety of the silver community, where people
Right.
generally kind of have a certain understanding
Mm-hmm.
or have already established a certain way of thinking, but
Mm-hmm.
then you open it up to the general public, you get
Right.
all sorts of comments. And so the first time that happened, I read them and it hurt. It hurt. And
Mm,
so after that, I was like, first of all, they don't get it. So I can't really value those opinions.
mhm.
And secondly, like I need to guard myself from this. Like I need to have some boundaries because I feel
Right.
very convicted to keep doing what I'm doing, and
Mhm.
I know that I'm by doing what I'm doing, I'm helping others. So at the end of the day, that's really what matters. And
Right.
so kind of having this understanding that we are on the front lines of just a different way of thinking, and
Mhm.
so you're gonna get a lot of just kind of outlash of comments, and that
Right.
definitely happened like on a public scale. And so after that first article, I didn't read the comments. I just decided,
Mm.
I'm not gonna
Right.
indulge in that. It's not helping me,
Mhm.
um, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right. I
So
appreciate that. You mentioned boundaries, and I didn't even think about that. Talk about how, in general, even with those we love and our friends, that's kind of a public, way of their, you know, people like, oh, you in between colors, or, what you doing there? And then you have the general public giving very sometimes acidic or corrosive comments about your appearance. And that must have been, but I appreciate how you were able to take that and safeguard yourself and protect yourself. And this is why sometimes I really want people to know that with this gray hair journey and the discomfort that could come up, this journey can also teach you that you can deal with certain things. You'll learn certain skills on how to protect yourself, how to, if you hear a negative comment or something that is opposite of what you are convinced of, it can be an opportunity to remind you, I need a boundary here. What is my truth? What do I know? Instead of, it can be very human of us to always just want to avoid. Okay, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to deal.
right.
But then by you dealing with it, you faced it head on. Look at where you are. You're still coming up on top in a sense, and you're helping others. If you would have just been like, oh my gosh, this person said this, I'm going to go back, dye my hair, you've gained so many skills from facing that fear of because that's one of the biggest things. I don't know if you've heard from women that's hard for the gray hair journey. What will other people say? What if they say this? And you've dealt with it and you're still here. We
Mhm.
survive it. We can get through it.
Yeah, yeah, so many good points in there. I think at the end of the day, sticking to your convictions and knowing that it's not just about you, it's also about so many other people. I know
Mhm.
that, I'm being watched by a younger generation, and I think back to my 14-year-old self that
Right,
didn't know what to think, and I didn't have a me to
right.
see and look up to. And so having that perspective is really helpful. Now, as far as like getting comments from, the general public versus
Hmm.
comments, in your family,
Hmm.
I would say, or not just your family, but like close friends or
Right.
someone that really has a lot more clout in your
Yeah.
heart,
Hmm.
I would say that those comments from people that know and love you and you know and love
Right.
sting more.
That's
And
true.
so,
That's true.
um, the general public, like you just kind of have this understanding that there are all kinds of people out there, and that's
Right.
okay, and
Right. Right.
that's part of why you're doing what you're doing. But
Hmm.
then when it comes from someone who you love and you respect and you really care about,
Hmm.
it can really hurt and it can be challenging and difficult. And
That's
I do
true.
not downplay that at all. I think that there have been a lot of women who have
Hmm.
had specifically like their moms being very, very opposed to their
Right.
decision, and that hurts.
It does.
Now, I don't think that they fully realize that,
Hmm.
but when you take a step back and you realize that this person is making this decision about their own bodies, for their own health and their own
Hmm.
wellness,
Hmm.
this is something that I should probably support.
Hmm.
I think that realization just hasn't sunk in, like that perspective is not there. And so um, understanding that perspective isn't there
Hmm.
is a way to kind of to kind of like back up from that person a little bit and just say,
Right.
they're a person too. I still love them.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't feel good, but I'm going to continue, or I'm going to make my own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, it's challenging.
It is. And you know what? We nicely covered both sides, because isn't that something in life? It could be both ways. Like you said, it can be hard when you have support of your peeps, and then you have the general public saying stuff they don't even know you, and you're like, you don't even know me, how could you be so rude or mean? And then it could be the opposite, where you're like, that I don't know you, whatever, you could think whatever, and then your mom, like, mom, how could you not support me? So it can sting, like you said, in different ways either way. And what I'm realizing too, we talked about this before, our decisions at times can really trigger other people and stuff that they're dealing with that they don't want to, deal with. And if we're not aware of that, we could feel attacked and like, where is this coming from? This is my personal decision. But when we understand that something that we do can, because I'm not sure if you've ever had an experience where someone's seen you in your gray hair and they tell you they love it, and then they start to tell you why they dye their hair, and you didn't even ask them. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah, all the time. Oh my gosh, that happens all the time. And it's so interesting as you're talking, just real quick back to like public comments versus like
Right.
coming from, people that know and love you. I think public comments or people that don't know and love you, it speaks more about them, and
Right.
rather than about you. But then
Right.
when it's from people that know and love you, it speaks more, or it tends to speak more about, it's not about you, it's about their own fears, it's about, and they're seeing it played out in you.
Yeah.
And so, very often it really doesn't have a lot to do with you. It has to do
Mm-hmm.
with, seeing your daughter with gray hair reminds you that, oh my gosh, I'm not 20 anymore, I'm
Right.
older. And having maybe like an underlying fear of just like a different stage of
Mhm.
life that like, hadn't been addressed,
Yes.
emotionally. And
Yes.
there
Yes.
can be so many other things that like, that really doesn't have anything to do with you.
Yes. It really, at the end of the day, is not about the actual color of the hair.
Mm,
It's about what it represents. It represents a different season in our life. It represents change. It represents, even to grow. In order to grow, we have to be outside of our comfort zone. And
mm,
so we resist that many times, even though it's good for us, or even though we might learn something. It's like, nope, that's okay. I like right where I'm at. And so when someone sees you in a place where they're not ready to go, and then that's not everybody either. Because some people
right,
could look at you and say, I'm so glad you could do that. I'm not there yet. And they're okay with it, and,
right.
at peace. But um, I think it is hard, like you said, when people don't respect that. And then and then it's one thing if your parent or someone you love doesn't like your gray hair, they're like, oh, I liked your hair better dyed. But then when they start to like, can you go color your hair, or like telling you what you need to do, then that starts to feel hard too, because it's like, wait a minute, like you
Right.
said, boundaries. This is my body, my hair,
Right.
my life, my hubby's fine with it. So
I think what it gets kind of down to is, having a self awareness and having an emotional self awareness versus not. So, someone who can look at you and say, I'm so glad you're there. I'm not
right,
there yet, but
right.
what you're doing has nothing to do with me, versus, you're talking to someone and they immediately launch into why they are dyeing their hair, even though you didn't bring it up, and you're like, how did we get here?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
why are we talking about this? It's a lack of having that space to address certain things that
mhm.
quite frankly aren't really fun to talk about or think about. It's not fun to think about change. It's not fun to
Mhm.
realize that we're a part of change, and that's
Right,
happened to
right,
us whether we like it or not, which is understandable. I think it's our go-to to not even address it. And
right.
so, not having had that awareness or
Mhm,
been a part of that conversation,
mhm.
um, is very understandable because that's where a lot of people come from.
Yeah.
And that helps me kind of extend grace in those moments when
Right.
people are like, well, I dye my hair because, and I'm like, well, you know
Right.
what? That's great. That works for you. I'm
Right.
so glad you are doing what works for you. And
It kind of even gives us an opportunity to validate them. Like, that is so awesome. I totally get it. You don't need to, but then you kind of, that's a gift that you give them. Like, don't worry, just reassuring you, no need for you to, like, I respect your decision and your choice too. What emotions specifically came up for you during the journey?
hmm, all of them at once, even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a deep sense of vulnerability, a deep sense of fear, at
Hmm.
the same times, at the same time as low of the lows that I felt
Hmm.
during the journey,
Hmm.
I also felt the equivalent, if not more, of the highs.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
so that just took time and that took
Hmm.
patience, and that's
Hmm.
part of why they felt so good. I
Right.
mean, it's like picking up a new I don't know, like sport or like exercising when
Hmm.
you're not in shape. Like at first, you don't feel good about yourself and
Yes.
your body just hates it, but then you keep going, you keep going, and you keep going,
Right.
and then eventually you look back and you see how far you've come, and you see that you've blossomed in these different ways, and it's that same kind of mentality,
Yeah.
because gray hair does, you can't just snap your fingers
Right.
and it's just there. It it takes patience and it requires it, and it takes grace, and so
Yes.
I felt all of the emotions, but I'm
Right.
so glad that I did because it taught me so much about myself,
Hmm.
and has prepared me for other things in life that
Isn't that
who
something?
knew that hair would do that.
It's true. And I think because it's not just hair, it's, again, it's not the hair, it's the change, it's what it represents, it's what it grows in us. And so in that sense, what starts off as superficial can be a deeper transformation,
Mhm.
on the inside. And I love that you mentioned this is one of the beautiful things of these interviews too, so that when other people watch your interview, they realize they can see themselves in that, and know that if they're having a hard time, if they're feeling impatient, if they're feeling like scared, it's okay. It's normal. That's a part of the compassion that
Mhm.
comes with it, because sometimes even when you're looking in the Grombre community or the Silver Sisters, you see everybody who maybe is on the finish line, or who are not having a hard time, or who have all the support. And what I love about these interviews is everybody's experience has been different. And so if you don't find yourself in this person's shoe and like, I'm loving it, but you're feeling all the emotions, it's okay. Like, take heart, continue, push through it, because you're not alone, because we not only can we find reasons to be divisive, we find ways to shame ourselves. Like, why isn't this gray journey so easy as this person? And it's like, no, I always want to be that person to be like, even if my experience was different than theirs, to, like you said, create a space for that person so that we all can fit in here, somehow. What is your favorite part of being gray or going gray? What was your favorite part?
About the journey itself,
Hmm.
is proving to myself or showing myself that I am capable of a lot more than I thought I was. It's a reminder to myself that, I am strong, and if I set my mind to something, that
Right.
it can be achieved, and that was something that I can carry with me,
Yes.
and take those same lessons and apply it to other things. So that
Mhm.
was, the lessons were definitely my favorite part. As of now, it's really about others at this point. It's about seeing how, you know, Grombre, or having a sense of connectedness and
Mhm.
support, and putting the energy to think these things through, to like
Mhm.
have the foundation to have these conversations, and
Mhm.
being able to show up for others and know that it means something to them, and they
Mhm.
are making meaningful life choices that are then going to dovetail into their own lives in beautiful ways, is really my favorite part of all of this. I
Yeah.
didn't expect it.
That's awesome. That is a beautiful gift to have received from this journey. And again, that's something I also want people to realize, because we can so easily just focus on, oh my gosh, what are people going to say, the negative comments, but there's so much you can look forward to if you hold through it. What part of the journey would you say you were like, I'm good. I'm so glad I did this. There's no turning back.
Oh, my wedding. My
Oh,
wedding. Yeah. So I got married in March of 2018, so 2 years
mhm.
ago.
Yeah.
And I had like this much dye at like the ends of my hair.
Mhm.
And I wasn't even as gray. Like I've gotten more silver even since
Mhm.
then. But knowing that I got to have this like really beautiful life experience
Mhm.
and feel myself
Mhm.
was a really powerful thing. That and a lot of my friends are long distance, and
Mhm.
so it had been a while since they had seen me in person,
Right.
and some of them hadn't even seen me like with my natural hair. And
Right.
so I think people were just kind of like, whoa. I don't post that many photos of me, so they're like, whoa, you look different. And but even being able to kind of show them like, this is who I am, and I'm so happy right now. That
Yeah.
moment for me was just formative and just huge, and I'm like, I am so glad I did this.
Yes, and that is such a beautiful gift. Similar other women who have gone natural with their natural hair texture, being as free like that on the most special day of your life is like just doubly awesome, because he embraced you, he embraced your journey, and like you were able to share that, and you could feel, because everybody wants to be like their most beautiful on their wedding day, and so the fact that you felt that in your natural hair color is like just so awesome. So
Yeah, and to be surrounded by like all the people you love, and
yeah.
it's a really powerful feeling.
Yeah, that's awesome. So um what's your favorite compliment that you've received about your hair?
Oh gosh, that's a good one.
I think I saw this on someone's page and I was like, oh, that's a great question.
Hmm. I've it's funny because it's not even about my hair. Now, I've had
Hmm.
strangers approach me like in the grocery store, and they're like, oh,
Mhm.
your hair is so beautiful, and
Right,
that
right.
that really means a lot.
Mhm,
I like really appreciate those compliments, so that goes a long way with
mhm,
me. But also from comments from people in my own life who have just watched me blossom. And I'm someone that just kind of deals with lower confidence or anxiety and
mhm,
different things. And I've having been through this journey and like
mhm,
continuously learning and excited and invigorated,
mhm,
it it's changed me
mhm,
in really wonderful ways, and that's been recognized by the people that know and love me. And so having them kind of come to me and just say, I'm really proud of you, or this is really cool and you just really inspire me. And it's not about my hair, but it's
right.
about kind of everything that came of it. Is such a encouraging experience, and really rewarding.
So funny because I call everybody butterfly, my beautiful butterfly. And
I
when you
love
said
that.
that, that's what I thought of. People
Mhm.
saw your beautiful butterfly transformation. They and what was rewarding about it is people could see your hair grow out. Yeah, your hair is great, but they saw this inner transformation, all the hard work that you did to work on accepting you, loving you. People could see that. And so it's
Mhm.
like, wait, you saw that work that I've been doing? Yay. So it's like it's the transformation, the inner transformation that people see. And that truly is what we have to remember about looking attractive. It's not just the outer. The outer can come and go. It can change very quickly from different things, but that person you are on the inside, that is what truly adds that meat and that meaning, and it shines from the inside out. That many I've seen with women who are gray now have gotten those same comments. It's like there's something about you, and it's like it's a freedom. It's an authenticity. that shines through. And I didn't even know you from before, but when you said that, you could tell on your face that you were just like, yeah, you seen your own little, like little baby steps in where you were and where you are. And it's a good feeling that other people could see it too.
And not to say that like now that I've gone through my,
I
I've
know.
cut the die off, like it's over, it stopped. No, my
Mm.
my heart is always under construction.
I
Um,
love that.
it is. I'm always learning, but I'm doing it with this perspective I didn't have before.
Mm.
And just to be able to kind of work on my heart posture and work on my motives and think about things and have the space to ask questions like why or what if
Mhm,
and
mhm.
how can we, and has been so transformative, and something that I've heard from so many women that have gone through this experience.
Right.
It's very
Oh, I
empowering.
just love the way you express yourself, like when you just said heart posture and just like that really resonated with me. So we're finally at one of my favorite questions. What advice do you have for those who are on the fence or just starting their hair journey?
Hmm.
Encouraging words.
Be nice to yourself. Whatever you decide, whatever's going on in your life, every single day, be diligent to be kind to yourself.
Mm,
Um, it's okay to put yourself first,
mm,
in that you can reach out and ask people's opinions
mm,
about, well, what do you think, would it look good
mhm,
on me, and
mhm,
everyone is going to have an opinion. Your stylist is going to have an opinion, your mom's going to have an opinion, everyone around you, but it's not going to take in the full dynamics of you and your needs. Your
mm.
needs could be financial and your stylist might not know that.
Right,
You could be considering like your footprint on the earth, and your mom
right,
might not be thinking of that with the
right.
advice that they give you. And so it's okay to seek out advice, but remember, at the end of the day, come back and just sit with what you are feeling, and know that how you move forward, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be easy. And no matter what you choose, to continue to die or to not die, but just be nice to yourself.
Oh my goodness. If you don't know about me, I'm a crybaby. I'm very easy like to get teary. And this will be my second interview that I just
Hug. Give you a hug.
because um when you just feel like you connect with someone and like, well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did with the lovely Martha. I would love to know what your takeaways were. Please let me know if you were on a gray hair journey. Please make sure you check out the GROMBRE page on Instagram, as well as www.grombre.com, right? The
Yeah.
website. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next interview, and I thank you so much always for watching.